Consideration of the January 19th, 2023 regular meeting minutes as written or noted with any corrections. Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion, we accept the January minutes. I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Consider up public comments. Those wishing to address the commission should fill out a request form in advance. Comments from the public will be restricted to items not on the agenda. There will be no comments allowed that advertise for a particular person or group. Comments should be limited to no longer than 3 minutes. Is there anyone in the public that would like to step before the commission and say anything? Okay, thank you. We're gonna move item number 5, the reports. We're gonna move that up to the beginning of this meeting so that Sean and Annie doesn't have to sit through our whole entire meeting. I'd like to bring up Sean first.
Good evening. How's everybody doing this evening?
Thank you.
Good. So we're wanting me to report on the Baskin property, correct? They're next to Bash's. Okay, so essentially, in some conversation with some of the other city staff, it was determined that we needed to kind of maybe change our course on that. So I actually took this over. Not a lot I can say about it currently right now. It is considered to be an actual criminal investigation at this point. But basically, I have gotten an agreement and a hard date out of the property owner. We're looking to have all of the debris and everything off the property by August 20th. In the event that they choose not to comply with what our agreement is, we will then go forward to court action. So that's where we're at on it. I can't really say a whole lot more other than it is in the process, and I am moving forward with it. So expect it to be gone by the 20th. If it's not, like I said, I will be filing that with the city attorney, and we'll be going to court to have that removed.
Thank you very much, Sean.
All right. Any other questions or anything from you?
Great job. Thank you.
I was curious about the property on Southern and that
Okay.
pile of debris on Southern. I know it's not on the agenda, but that was, so we can't go there.
Yeah, we can't discuss that.
All right. Next meeting.
You can, call me back to the next
2-3
meeting. I'll be
months.
happy to discuss that with you as well.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Okay, thank you very
All
much,
right,
Sean.
thank
Have
you.
a good, nice evening.
Hi, good evening, Chair Oberg, members of the commission. I am Annie Meredith, your city clerk, and I have the pleasure of delivering your annual open meeting law and parliamentary procedure training. And there's that. All right, and I will just, back to your question for Sean. Another option is that he could email the commission an update if you didn't want to wait until your next scheduled meeting.
I sent the email, but I never got a response.
Okay,
So
so that is another option. You can't discuss it here, but you do have a couple of options, so I want to make sure you were aware of that. So I'm going to run through this. I know most of you have heard it. We do have a new commissioner, Ms. Jocelyn, with us this evening, so I want to make sure that everybody has the understanding of what the rules are. If you have any questions as I go through, or you need me to slow down because I do talk kind of fast, just say, hey, Annie, whoa. So we'll just go ahead and get started. So what is open meeting law? It is the public policy of the state that meetings of public bodies be conducted openly and that such notices and agendas be provided for those meetings that contain information as reasonably necessary to inform the public of the matters that are going to be discussed or decided. To this end, any person or entity charged with the interpretations of this law, that is you, shall make sure that the provisions are followed. So you guys are each individually and as a whole responsible for open meeting law. Any of the public meeting of the public body has to be public, and all persons that want to be able to attend need to be permitted to do so. and they can come in, listen to the deliberations and the proceedings. Basically, the public's business has to be conducted in the public, so all meetings have to be open. Why does it matter? It protects the public, and then it also preserves their right to participate in local government. It protects you guys, and it maintains the integrity of our government, and ensures a better informed citizenry, and it builds trust between you guys and the community. Who must comply? You. Each one of you, and if you are ever found to be in violation of open meeting law, that fine is against you as an individual, not as a commission and not as the city. So you would be responsible individually for any fines or fees associated with that. And then that includes any of our quasi-judicial bodies, our Board of Adjustments, Board of Appeals. Subcommittees are also, if you guys were to form a subcommittee, that would also need to fall under open meeting law. They would have to create an agenda, have a meeting, have some type of minutes or recording that the public would be able to view as well. What constitutes a meeting? The gathering in person or through technological devices of a quorum of members of a public body where you discuss, propose, or take legal action, including any deliberations by a quorum with respect to that action. That's a majority of your members is what a quorum is. So for your commission, you are a 7-member commission, so that's 4 or more of you would constitute a quorum. And vacant positions, it's important to know that they do not reduce your quorum requirement. What constitutes a meeting? In today's day and age, there are a ton of ways that you can communicate with each other. This list is not exhaustive. It's just kind of the more common things you know, but it includes social media, it includes email, phones, text messaging, all of that. We do recommend that you refrain from sending an email to a quorum of your public body. If there's information you have that you would like to share with the whole commission, it's best to send that to staff or your recording secretary and ask them to send it out so that everybody can see it. This is an issue that we have a lot of conversations surrounding. That's splintering of a quorum. That is when one or more of you have a conversation about something that's going to be brought before your commission, and then you go and have the conversation with another commissioner, and then the person goes and has a conversation with another commissioner. Even though you weren't all together at the same time, that's considered splintering a quorum, so you want to be aware of not doing that as well. It's always best to just make sure that if there's something you want to discuss, you just bring it to the meeting and have the open discussion together. Informing the public, we cannot hold any meetings without giving a minimum of 24 hours advanced notice to the public and to you as well as the commissioners. Our agendas, and these are all required by statute, our agendas have to have the date, time, and location of the meeting, any specific matters to be discussed, and then each item has to have what I call a summary that just gives enough information that the public has a basic understanding of what you're going to discuss. The posted agenda online gives much more detailed information. It gives the reports, the attachments, but the agenda that we post needs to just be able to, anybody should be able to open it up and say, I got a general understanding of what they're going to talk about. And then, like we just had, unless it's on the agenda, you cannot discuss it. So the best course would to be bring it back at your next meeting, or ask staff can always send out a report on something if you don't want to wait as long since you do meet quarterly. Any action that is taken on an item that is not properly noticed is in violation of open meeting law, and then it's also void. So if a meeting is found to have an open meeting law violation, it can actually void all of the action that was taken at that meeting. Call to the public. You do not have to have a call to the public. We do on our council and commission meetings give that opportunity for the public to come forth. And then you can impose a reasonable time limit. For council, we use a 3-minute timer. For call to the public, you can do just a couple of things. You can respond to criticism if an individual commissioner is directly criticized during a call to the public. You can respond to that after the call to the public is closed. You can ask staff to review an item. You can ask that something be placed on a future agenda. You can say thank you. You can just sit and be quiet. You just can't have an open conversation. There can't be back and forth dialogue. And then you can only have call to the public, again, if it is put on the agenda.
So I had a question on that, where it says the commission may not respond to the speakers. So just repeat your answer on that. We can respond to them, but don't carry
So
on.
what you can say is, we will have staff follow up with you on that. You can say, we will have that put on a future agenda, or you can say thank you. You just can't say, I understand, I also think that's a problem, and have like a dialogue with them. Yeah, you can let them know what the direction will be, but you just can't talk about the item. The public has the right to attend, listen, tape record, or videotape. They only have the right to speak if they have signed up to do so during the designated time, and they do not have the right to be disruptive. So if they are disruptive, then you would be able to ask them to please excuse themselves or just hold their comments. Again, if anybody is found to be in violation of open meeting law, there could be a civil penalty. Anybody that, if it's on more than one person, that can, they can also be charged and have fines as well. And then, like I mentioned before, any action taken in that meeting is void. Conflict of interest. I don't know that you guys will see this a lot with your commission, but we do have some commissions where there are a conflict of interest. If you have any personal interest that would bring you financial benefit, whether it's yourself, a family member, you just need to declare that, and then you wouldn't be able to have discussion and vote on that item. So you want to make sure you find out ahead of time what your conflicts are. Your recording secretary does have a form if there is something that you need to refrain from discussion on. And then there's remote interest. If your cousin, uncle's neighbor, you're aware of a business that they do that's coming before, that's not something that you need to declare. And if you have any questions, you can always contact my office or our city attorney's office, and we can kind of talk through it with you and see. This is the statute that covers open meeting law and conflicts of interest. Again, if you ever have any questions on this, you are more than welcome to contact my office or the city attorney's office. So are there any questions on open meeting law before I pop over to parliamentary procedure? No? Okay. All right, so what is parliamentary procedure? I clicked way too fast. I don't know exactly what I did there. Let's just start over. Wants to go backwards, that's all right. All right, so what is parliamentary procedure? It's a set of rules for conduct at meetings. It allows everyone to be heard and to make decisions without confusion. It's important because it's a time-tested method of conducting business. It can be adapted to fit any needs of an organization. So we do not follow a strict Robert Rules of Order. We have adapted parliamentary procedure to fit our organization so that it allows us to have a nice, orderly meeting. This is our typical meeting order, and you'll see that's kind of how your agenda's lined out. You have your call to order, roll call, do a pledge of allegiance, minutes, any awards, call to the public, old business, new business, reports, and then any announcements you guys may have. So probably one of the biggest parts of your meetings is your motions. Your motion is a proposal to your entire membership to take action on an item. It's how you guys are able to express your feeling or your intent for that item. The main type of motion that you guys use is going to be called a main motion. The purpose of that is to introduce items to the rest of the membership for consideration. And those can't be made when any other motion is on the floor. And then they yield to privileged, subsidiary, and incidental motions. A subsidiary motion is to change the effect of how a main motion is handled and voted on before a main motion. And then an incidental motion gives you an opportunity to bring some additional questioning to that motion before consideration. The life of a motion, somebody will make a motion. There will be a second or not. If there is a second, there is an opportunity for discussion, and then your commission would make a vote on that motion. How motions are to be presented, you should obtain the floor from the chairman if you are wanting to make a motion. It's like asking permission. Say, Chair Oberg, I'd like to make a motion that we da-da-da-da-da. You want to make sure that you speak in a clear, concise manner because not only do you want to make sure everybody understands the motion that is on the floor, you want to make sure that the recording secretary can capture it for our legal and permanent minutes, as well as our video that we do stream all of our meetings online. Then you'll wait for somebody to second your motion. If there is no second, the motion is lost. When there is a second, then the chairman generally will restate the motion. We have a motion and a second to take whatever action, and then call for the vote. There is an opportunity after the motion is made. If during that discussion period, somebody's like, well, can we do this? You can expand or amend a motion, but you have to do that before any type of voting is taken. And then when you're ready to take a vote, you can do that 3 different ways: by voice. Generally, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion either carries or fails. Sometimes if there is a close motion, this is usually on something that's a little bit maybe more controversial and you're not quite sure what was A and what was nay, you can ask the recording secretary to do a roll call vote. There is also the option to do it by division, which is raising your hands, but we don't generally see that in our meetings. There are 2 other motions that you can use. You can do a motion to table. If the commission has an item that's come before you and you would like additional research, you would like staff to do something else and bring it back to you, you can do a motion to table that item until your next meeting or till whenever you think is appropriate to bring it back. You also have the motion to postpone it indefinitely, which is generally used when somebody doesn't want something to come back. So parliamentary procedure is the best way to get things done at the meeting. It only works if you use it properly, so you want to make sure your motions are in order, that you clearly define your motion and everybody has their opportunity to speak. You speak clear and concisely. We don't want to talk over each other. That makes it difficult to understand the business we're taking care of. And then most importantly, be courteous to each other. Are there any questions on parliamentary procedure? All right. Again, if you ever do have questions, you are more than welcome to contact my office. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's our public today. It's Mr. Elsterman included. So I guess we're on item number 3, old business event calendar.
Yep.
So I guess the main event that we have coming up that we'd like to talk about tonight is actually September 9th is the planned United Way Day of Caring cleanup. Typically, what we've done with that is we've cleaned up our adopt-a block section out on 66 from Public Works down to down to the Bashes area. I think last year we had a contingent that was over at Firefighters Park for the gathering there, but I guess I should say welcome to Commissioner Joslin first. Glad to have you. But I know that we have a couple of commissioners who are in on that planning effort, so I thought maybe we could get an update from them on how the meetings have been going, planning the Day of Caring in the fall, and how all that stands. So.
I think, Mike, do you have an update on that, or? I know Mike and Randy have been working hard with the adopt-a-block and the cleanups and.
Yeah, in relation to the United Way cleanup, I think Commissioner Howlands and Commissioner Joslin are involved in
Okay.
planning for that.
Okay, good.
Okay. Again, we just had a meeting today also, and I don't know how the last year for earlier in the year went, but this one we're having a challenge with the local businesses to clean up and around their area and improve their curb appeal and stuff like that, and then actually having a competition and they can win a pizza party and stuff like that, which will be hosted by the River Cities United Way. So that's just part of it. And then the rest of it is pretty much a week-long cleanup of the city and different areas of the city, with the Saturday being the main thing where the public can get out and sign up and clean up an area, starting at the park and stuff like that. And then after that, the Golden Valley Cactus Cleaners will be in the Butler area helping get big stuff out of people's houses who cannot do it physically and what have you, to help them get it into the dumpsters and stuff like that, take it to the recycle, whatever it needs to be done. So we will be volunteering to do that the next week. So it's actually going to be a couple weeks long there, but hopefully we'll get some good turnout of that area too and make that area a lot cleaner too. And Commissioner Joslin probably has more information.
They're looking forward to this street cleanup. We've been doing it for a couple of years now, and it's getting bigger and better. They're promoting it a lot more, planning on having everybody get out and have events. There's, like you said, the businesses have a competition. Whichever business gathers the most trash bags, they're going to have a pizza party for them, and then they're challenging organizations like the churches or the Boys and Girl Scouts to have competitions between each other. So it should be a lot of fun.
Good, good. Thank you. Ed, I don't know if you had anything to add. I know this last year's event was probably the best one that I participated in as far as turnout. But Ed, was there anything else?
Yeah, I don't have anything else to add other than I think as a commission, like I say, if we want to decide we want to meet over at Public Works and do our particular area, we can. You guys can define a time. I think that probably earlier the better. And then if that's the case, we could have some staff there to be able to assist you with supplies.
Is that on September the 9th you're talking about?
Yes,
Say
sir.
that again, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yes, the 9th.
Okay. Well, I make a motion, or Chairperson Colbert, go right ahead. I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead and adopt to do the Public Works area like we have in the past. And I guess this is part of the same motion to do it at, say, 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning.
Sounds
It's
good.
still cool.
7:30,
7:30.
meet at Public Works.
Yep.
I have a motion on the floor.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Motion passed, carries.
Thank you. Item number 3B is the Adopt a Block update. We do have a new Adopt a Block group. That's Connection Point Church, and thanks to Commissioner Carpenter and his fellow congregants there. They've adopted actually a fairly large area of Stockton Hill Road from Northern to Keno, and they held their first cleanup. So I don't know if you'd want to give us a little.
We might have bit off more than we could chew. We didn't make it all the way down to Keno, but we
Yeah.
ended up with 36 bags of trash, 13 people,
Wow.
3 hours. And it was fun.
That's great.
We had a good time.
Yeah, that's
And
great.
we're gonna do another cleanup in October.
Good.
Yeah,
Good deal.
although, I won't get into it.
Excuse me, I don't remember what the numbers were, but it was the most bags that we collected from your church on that cleanup, so good job.
Yeah, thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you. So also in the packet, there's a list of the active Adopt a Block permits, and then the folks that have been contacted regarding the program. So,
Yeah, just to add to that, Eddie and I have been working with Donna on getting a master list put together so that people aren't duplicating things, and it is in this packet. So, pages 29 through 30 would be a good area in that packet to look through.
so are there any other questions or comments on the Adopt a Block program?
No, we've been promoting it, like First Fridays and stuff, and Dig It Gardens, we were there. So, yeah, we just keep promoting.
Yeah, and I think generally, when we get into the fall, some of the special events start picking back up, and I know that Dig It Gardens has a few of them scheduled for the fall, and it's always a good place to go.
Yep.
And promote all of our programs, so. All right. If there's nothing else, next item's the Clean City Commission welcome and vacancies. And again, welcome to our new commissioner, Marcia Joslin. We appreciate you applying. So as of now, we still have 2 vacancies, and we're willing to consider any candidates that submit. Did anybody have any questions or comments on that item?
Nope, been promoting that as well.
All right. Next item's property maintenance responsibility. We've talked about this some. Back in the spring, I was contacted by the city clerk, and the city had gotten some space in the Kingman Daily Miner Home and Garden special section that went out in the spring, and we were looking for some information to put in. And Annie graciously helped us out with this little flyer about, property maintenance and whose responsibility what is. And, I kind of stole some of this information. The fire department has some information on their webpage regarding weeds. Police department has some information on their webpage, and then their social media. They both have active social media regarding nuisances and junk and debris. So we kind of crafted together some of that information to try to put into a flyer that was kind of easy to read. And we kind of had a short deadline, so this is what we ended up with to get into the special section of the minor. Since that time, we've had this on the website and on our Facebook page, and we had some discussion as a commission before about doing mailers, specifically with weeds, but could also address some of the other common issues that our code enforcement ends up dealing with out in the field. And especially, after the rains we had this past year, we knew we were in for a bad weed year. But, so, we have this flyer that we worked up. We also have the information in the packet from the police department and fire department's social media and web pages. But we were thinking that this is something we could do a couple times a year. You know, we could send out a mailer in our water bills a couple times a year, something like this that, you know, I think, to me, these kind of graphics-based information pieces are a little bit easier to read than paragraph after paragraph of text. But could send these out a couple times a year, could promote them on the website and on Facebook, and make them available for police and fire to use as they see fit as far as public education on whose responsibility what is. And so I guess with that, we kind of gave you a lot of information. We're looking for any input on any tweaks or improvements we could make.
So again, this is something I've been asking for with a friendly reminder to try and take some of the heat off of the fire department and with the weed abatement, where we could do a mailer ourselves. And Eddie and myself, Donna, we've been discussing it. And they said they were going to discuss it with you, where each commissioner would pick maybe their top 5 monthly. And we could email that to Donna. She would print out the flyers, and we wanted to do both, like a 2-sided flyer, because you found this recently, I understand. Perfect. So if we could do a 2-sided flyer, each of us would mail no more than 5 to Donna on a monthly basis. She would print out the flyers, get the envelopes ready, and then one of us, we would all take turns going in once a month, stuffing the envelopes and mailing them out. Hopefully that'll relieve the fire department of some of the responsibility or code enforcement of going out. Maybe someone will get the flyer and actually act on it, you know. Because I know you guys say that you mail these out with the utility bills, but most of us don't get a utility bill. We get it online. We get an online, you know, an email, and it's automatically paid. I don't know what the percentage of that would be, but was that discussed with you?
Yeah, it was, and I guess, you know, I think that there's been some subsequent discussions with the departments that deal with code enforcement. I think the concern is that we don't want to do anything that's going to make, you know, code enforcement. It was my first job with the city of Kingman. It was my worst job with the city of Kingman. You know, it's not a fun job, but it's very regimented based upon state statute on notifications, number of days to comply, you know, and procedures on how you handle violations. I wouldn't want to get in the middle of, you know, if we're sending out blind letters to people that may already be in the process somehow, confusing the matter. You know, if they've already been cited and then we're sending them a friendly reminder, maybe they think the first one doesn't count anymore. So, I mean, I think if we come up with this flyer, like I said, I think we can provide it to police and fire and community development, and they can use it as part of their, you know, their outreach
Tools,
on
yeah.
code enforcement, and without us stepping in their way. And so I guess that's my concern.
Could we add something like refrigerator magnets to residents, stick on their fridge and tell them the dates, like weed abatement and stuff, and just as a reminder that way, and these new digital billboards going around town, maybe we could utilize those as well?
Yeah, certainly. I think that, you know, these message boards are going to be a great avenue for us to promote,
Yeah, absolutely.
you know, local events and local happenings. But yeah, I think we're open for any. I mean, that's kind of what our focus always was, you know, the public outreach and the education.
And we have a lot of new people living in Kingman.
Sure.
I mean, just in 4.5 years since we've been here.
Well, and there's a lot of people that, you know, they've lived in homeowner association subdivisions their whole life, and they're not used to, you know, a place like this where there are, you know, I think there's 2 homeowner associations in the whole city. It's different, you know. I mean, Kingman's an older town. It's not.
Public awareness programs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, my question about this procedure is I've seen a lot of properties that need to be, have somebody go out and talk to them or code enforcement to get involved. And the properties have been like that for years since I've been here in town, and actually they're getting worse. So if we just send out general flyers, I'm not sure that's really going to help those particular people get their property cleaned up. And how do we monitor who's getting their property cleaned up and not, or, you know, who's been contacted?
Well, again, you know, our department doesn't deal with code enforcement. And so I guess I'm not comfortable, you know, interjecting myself in the middle of that process and maybe complicating it or making it more difficult for them to do their job. I think, you know, just like any other citizen, commissioners can file complaints on properties that they think are in violation. And, you know, and the police department, fire department, community development, they all have procedures on how they handle complaints once they're received. So.
Mr. Chair, I have a comment.
Sure. I think one more.
I had a question on the excessive weeds and obstructions. If we want them to remove the weeds because they're dry dead or whatever, what do we expect them to do with the property? Because bare ground is not, doesn't do anything for the water, doesn't do anything for the look of the property. So have we got suggestion that they could plant instead of just remove things, and then you have a empty, bare, dry, hot, dusty lot?
Well, and you make a good point. I mean, you know, we've seen that before where somebody goes in and blades, you know, 3 acres of property so they can put their for sale sign and it's ready to develop, right? And then we're all breathing that dust for however long it takes for that property to develop. But I mean, basically, this is all based upon what the code says. So the code says, you know, you can't have dry grass and weeds over 6 inches tall. So as far as telling them what they could do, I don't know.
So how do we influence them to change that and put something else instead that's alive and, or mulch or whatever to make it not just bare, hot, dry, and dusty?
Yeah.
I mean, it's great if we take the weeds off, but that creates an additional problem.
It can.
So, again, I think education is the key to that.
Sorry, I don't have a good answer for that. So. John, I'm sorry,
Sean,
did you want to speak?
Did you have input, Sean? Yeah.
So let me regroup here. So let's go back to the question that Commissioner Case brought up. As far as how that goes, in Rob is 100% correct in it's very difficult for us to authorize and or allow the commission itself to send anything directly to individuals that there's a problem with. So in order to get around that, that's why I believe that the idea is let's send them to everybody, right? So that nobody from the commission is picking out anybody or anything like that. And the reason for that is that can turn around and cause issues for you personally on an individual level, right? You're not on the payroll, you're not covered under the same insurances to go out there and be enforcement. So Rob's idea, and I think we could probably merge the two things of what everybody's ideas are. And if each one of the commission members has 5 a month, because in all actuality, and I'll get into kind of the reasoning on why things take so long here shortly, but if you have these issues, by all means, report them, right? Because at that point, they will get entered into the process and be dealt with accordingly. Now getting into the process, so Our state statutes in Arizona are very, very, very heavy on the protection of the property owner and the right for them to essentially be able to do what they want on their property. So our city ordinances, based upon what the state statutes are, go in line with what is required in order for us as a city to dictate to somebody, hey, you can't do this on your property, right? So that process is not the best process, but again, that is within the restraints of what the state statutes allow us to do. So essentially, a complaint comes in, right? The complaint goes to whoever the enforcement body is, right? From there, they have to substantiate the complaint. Visibly, we can't take your pictures, we can't take your word for it. We physically have to go view this and determine based upon our ordinances whether it is or is not a violation, right? And the reason for that is again, this does, the way the city works is we have two routes we can go. And the majority of the time, the criminal aspect is what the route that we go, because that meets, oh, there's a microphone there. Sorry, I talk with my hands. But that meets basically so that no matter what happens within that case, we can take whatever action we need to, right? So if we chose to just go civil and go the civil action, basically what it comes down to is the judge will eventually in the process, and it's a very long process, a judge will eventually give essentially a search warrant and or an order that allows us as city officials to enter upon that property and abate and or take care of that issue, right? So again, the process that we have to go through to do that is once that order's issued, then we have to go through the, what is it when we have to buy stuff? We have the procurement process, right? Because we can't just go out and say, oh, hey, I like you, I want you to do this. We can't do that as a city for the most part, because the majority of the times the cost of what it costs to do these things is over that level of money at which we're allowed to just spend, right? So again, that takes more time because we have to put out for, you know, a week or 2 weeks or whatever it is for somebody to be then put a bid in and us award them the bid to take care of the issue, right? And there has been some things over the years, and I'm not super familiar with that because I've, you know, I thought I moved on, but I haven't actually moved on. But there's some things that we've been put into place to where we can make that judgment. We now know, hey, this is most likely not going to go over that threshold. So we have certain companies that we hire to do things. Now with that comes the issue of finding companies that are properly licensed, properly insured, and everything else, right? So that's another issue. There's very few that we can choose from when it comes to that. So we go that route, we get it taken care of, right? And so at that point, who's gonna pay the bill, right? So that goes to the recorder's office and we record a lien for that price. I mean, the property owner is given the opportunity to pay it. If they choose not to, then at that point, what happens is we put a lien on the property. The likelihood of the city ever seeing that money again is absolute minimal, right? Because some type of transaction has to occur with that property in order for us to get our money, right? Well, in Supreme Court rulings here in the last, I would say probably in the last 5 to 8 years, right, they have set precedent that if the property owner tries to essentially fight that in court, basically what it comes down to is that's going to wind up costing the city more money in litigation to collect that lien money, right? So we choose to go the other route a lot of times because we have a higher ability of, number one, taking care of the issue, as well as then the court orders that as restitution as opposed to it being a civil lien, right? So that's kind of something, the path that we've kind of chosen that we have to go in order to give the city the best opportunity to recap our money. So that process, that's kind of in a very, very, very small nutshell, that's kind of the process. And if any of you want that process, I'll be happy. It's in our city code. Our city code actually lays it out. Just shoot me an email. I will get you what the city code is, the link how to get there, and you can read through exactly what the entire process is as far as that goes. Does that kind of bring some things into perspective?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a very good explanation and
Okay.
it makes a lot of sense. I do know that being that we are the Clean City Commission and our
Mhm.
job is to want to help and clean up this city in any ways we can. Usually the things that we do end up costing the city money
Right.
versus like the other departments in town where they make the city money. And I do understand that's where a little bit of a reluctancy can come from to push these issues.
Mhm.
Do you have any kind of recommendations as the best way to do this? Because otherwise, if the properties don't get cleaned up, and we've been trying to do this for a long time, it's kind of like, we feel like we're spinning our wheels.
Right. No, like I said, I absolutely understand. But again, it comes back to, and this is the part that makes it very, very, very hard, right? The codes are very specific on what really is blight, what really is a nuisance, right? And one of the things I like to talk to people about is the old, what is junk to me is a treasure to you, right? So we really truly have to look at that, right? And a lot of things that we may see, and me including on a personal level, I may see this as junk. Why do you have it here? Get rid of it, right? We can't bring our personal opinion about what this is, right? If they can say and talk to us and tell us, oh yeah, this is this, and it's used for this, and this goes with this over here, right? Well, that's not junk. It has a use. It has a purpose. We can't call it junk and require them to get rid of it, right? Now, going into kind of what has been talked about over here when it comes to weeds, again, that same process is the process we have to go through for weeds. And the bad thing is that we live in the desert, weeds grow crazy, and a lot of times I've had many cases over the years to where I have gone through the entire process. I have abated an entire property. I have gone through the process and paid somebody and had them come out here. I even went to as far as when this is taking place, part of the requirement is they have to put some type of weed killer or something down on these properties so that it doesn't grow back, right? Because it was an over revolving thing, right? And luckily I haven't gotten any flack over that, but that was just something I'm like, okay, we have to put some type of chemical down or something, because if not, I'm going to be back out here. And I was many a times. So for you, those of you who don't know, I was in code enforcement before I went to the fire department, and when I went to the fire department, that followed me, and I used to do all of the weed abatement for the fire department. And so now that's still under partial of my purview now, but because of my knowledge and everything else over the years, I seem to have code enforcement. Everything is my entire life, but it's okay. So as I did it, these are just some of the issues that we run into, right? And so my suggestions are, just as Rob has said, use your rights as a citizen, right? Your rights as a citizen, whether you're a citizen or not, you have the right to report this, right? And you report it, every time you report it, it is substantiated or not substantiated, right? And I guess that would be something that's up to the department heads or those divisions that are doing that, right? Because they know, and based upon their experience and everything that they've done dealing with some of these, I think we could probably start to see some headway, and we could move forward in collaboratively working towards that. For instance, the other day, I got an email, and there was 15 different things that were reported, right? Well, I look at my staffing. Okay, do I have the staffing to send out to substantiate this when it's not even there? It's not even within their purview. So if I was to send somebody out, they're going to go out there and like, why are you sending me here? Okay, cool. That's what I needed to know. We'll give this over to neighborhood services because it's within their purview, or is it within the fire department's purview, right? And so we have to go through and do that, and that takes time, right? So that stuff takes time before we even start that actual process. So, I mean, there's lots of things here that kind of delayed a little bit. But as of, I got that complaint, I think, last Thursday, and as of today, I, have been in contact with Neighborhood Services. I said, hey, can you send somebody out to check this property, this property, this property? I'm gonna go check this one, this one, this one, and then we'll sit down and figure out who's to take care of what, right? So there's a lot of that internal stuff that we have to do before we can do that. I would absolutely recommend that you use your rights as a citizen. Don't overwhelm us, please, but if that's what you choose to do, that's what you choose to do. We'll work down the list and we'll get to them, right? But use that. I don't feel that 3 or 4 or even 5, depending upon what they are, from each one of the commission members coming to us as a city to look into and get started in the process if necessary is too much to ask. I really don't, especially because, again, you guys are looking for ways, to get in here and really try and move this stuff along. And that would be my suggestion on what we do on that. And trust me, we know the weed issue. That is a huge issue, especially on the fire department portion of things. But because of that process, we have one person, they're in charge of it. And many a times, that person's come to me and said, hey, I need help with this. I have this much going on. What can you do to help with this, right? And so we, kind of work together to try and, make phone calls over to the code enforcement people or the neighborhood services, and we really try and work together to make this happen. I will say that that's not something that's been as useful as it is now. Those relationships have been built internally. We're all working very well together. I hope to see improvement in that aspect, but I feel it's going to take a while for that to actually be visible to the eyes. So I would say don't hesitate to call us, let us know, report that stuff. Probably the best way to report that is through our online reporting system. That basically when you go in there, it's laid out in a manner to where, okay, if it's junk and debris or this or that, it's designed to where it'll automatically route it to the department it goes. So a lot of that beginning hoopla that I was talking about isn't there, right? And so we get those reports. Again, that stuff's time-stamped, everything's there, it's good, and it'll get into the process, so.
Okay, I'd just like to thank you again because it's a very good explanation. I just got one quick comment
Absolutely.
on something that you said, like where we look and we see somebody's property and we think it's trash, and to them it's useful for whatever reason. That's not my sole purpose of wanting to report this. It's also because of the weeds and fire hazards.
Right.
I've seen houses close together with a lot of weeds, and if one was to catch fire, you guys would have your hands full. And so it's also a safety issue too.
Absolutely, no, and I absolutely agree with that. Again, though, then you look at the entire city, right, and we have to manage that workload, right, because these portions are not the only thing that our people are doing, essentially. So I would say anything that comes in through my division, whether it be on the fire side or the community development side, if you're not seeing something occur with that, I'm not, most times not gonna be able to reveal a whole lot of information to you about it, because again, same thing, you go and ask a police officer, hey, what's going on with this case? They're gonna be like, oh, it's moving, right? Our response is going to be the same because legally it is the same. Even though it's dealing with weeds, even though it's dealing with these other things, it is the same principle and laws that apply to that. So feel free to reach out to me. I'm not always the best at getting back very quickly. I got a lot going on, but I do go through my emails and flag, and once a week I go and work through the flagged emails that I wasn't able to get to. So at any rate, feel free to reach out to me, call me, stop by the office, whatever it is you need. We will definitely work with you guys to get this taken, because this is very important. It is very important, so.
And I would like to add that I've worked with Sean plenty of times just exactly what he's talking about. And if you do put in a complaint to him or fill that form out, give him at least 60, 90 days before you start hounding him and, hey, what's going on with this case? What's going on with this case?
Maybe, it's probably
I
a
mean,
little
what do you,
longer now.
what do you
It's
feel
probably a
like?
little longer now.
Longer?
Rob,
Okay.
But
I
I'm
used to give you
comfortable with
90
that. I'm
days.
comfortable with that.
Yeah, but, give him some time to work through it. And
Mr. Chair, I got one more comment. One thing that's not on here that or I didn't see on here anyway is the graffiti. I know it's not a huge problem around here, but it does happen, and I've heard of some out there just today, but I haven't had a chance to check it out. I know before, a couple years ago, we were discussing that, and there was a reward for reporting the graffiti and what have you, but there was not a system in place to ever pay anybody that reward. That's been a couple years. Have we did anything or not?
Not, not that I'm aware of. Generally, the reports for graffiti go through the police department. If they're unresolved, the property owner doesn't clean them up. We have, if they're on public property, our public works crew has gone out and either painted them out or sandblasted them out. But we can definitely update the information on graffiti and include this in the flyer too. I know that kind of comes in spurts, but when it happens, it's usually bad.
Okay.
And just one of the points Sean made about the online reporting, that page is included in the printouts too. But that process is being updated. Our engineering department's actually taken the lead on updating the kind of report a concern or contact us app. And so that's in process right now, and I think that'll be a great improvement to where, and correct me if I'm wrong, Keelan, but I mean, my understanding is that, people will be able to get this app on their phone, and basically you can open up and type in an address and then go through and click boxes on what the problem is there, and it'll automatically route, like it does now, it'll automatically route that to the appropriate department personnel to deal with it. So
one question I get a lot is, can I put in a complaint anonymously? Do they get handled the same way as if it was you had our name and phone number and all that? Okay, thank you, Sean.
I guess just for the record, Sean replied. Yes.
Sean nodded his head, yes, for the record.
I have one and this is for open field property owners and residential property owners, right? Covers everything the same?
Yeah,
There's a lot of open fields with some serious tumbleweeds growing right now over the sidewalks and stuff. And I could see a resident going, well, what about that? They're on me for my property, but what about these open fields?
yeah.
a thought,
Again, I would defer because I'm not an expert on the fire code, but my understanding is it applies to all properties. Any other comments on that? We'll work on, again, we'll update it with the graffiti information, but if you have any other suggestions on how to, improve the flyer or other information that should be included with it, please send that to us. And
I think both flyers that you had found are excellent, right on line with I was hoping to get accomplished. And if we could do a two-sided flyer and mail them out, like you said, quarterly or twice a year. And Mike had mentioned back in January, radio stations, you were going to contact the radio station. And then there's also this neighborhood, I keep getting it, don't ask me how, but it's called Next Door. And it's a group of communities, and people go on there and post. I had asked that maybe we could post on there, put the flyer up on there every once in a while, something like that, or post whatever we want. But I understand we don't have a PIO right now, so,
We do not, and unfortunately, I am social media, I don't know. I don't know my social media, I guess, so, but that's something we can explore, yeah.
okay, thank you. Okay, move on. Item number C, Kingman Helping Hands Project. We had a small situation that arose that we all were taking a look at the application. And it was our understanding that we were to help homeowners that are in need, whether maybe they had a surgery and they weren't going to be able to do their yard work for the next few months. Situations like that. We never once discussed rental property. So on the application, we have noticed that there is one little box that says tenant's name, which would represent a rental. And I would like to make a motion that we remove tenant's name off of this application and leave everything else as is. But have a motion?
I'll second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Ayes and one nay?
One nay.
Okay. Motion carries.
Sure.
Thank you. Moving down to new business, communication, I think a lot of that was discussed in the, previously with, between Sean and what we were talking about, I think,
Yeah.
unless Rob wants
some of
to
this-
ad lib
some of
on
this
the
goes.
communication.
I guess I'd just like to kind of hit some of the highlights, if that's all
We
right.
did, yes.
But again, with the open meeting law training tonight, it's, you know, it's just important when you're communicating with each other to keep that in mind. As far as, you know, the splintering of the quorums or the kind of the game of telephone through the commission, you know. And, you know, I know open meeting law kind of seems, it seems like you're in handcuffs sometimes, but it's important and that, you know, the public's business should be dealt with in a public meeting. And if discussions or decisions are being made, that should be something that the public's aware of and it has the ability to come and offer input into. So just a reminder on that open meeting law training, the best way to contact staff. I think, you know, and I'll admit, you know, I have the same disease that Sean does. Sometimes I'm not the timeliest returning phone calls or answering emails, and I apologize for that if I've done that to you, and I will work to be better. But, you know, I think the best way for the commissioners to contact us is probably through Donna as your primary contact. This is actually going to be my last meeting running this, or, you know, emceeing this meeting or whatever I do, I guess, you know. Going forward, it's going to be primarily Eddie and Keelan handling this. I've got some other projects and programs that I need to get busy with. But again, Donna's probably your best primary contact, followed by Eddie. And we've kind of already talked about some of the items, you know, as far as the relaying of complaints. We've included kind of like some of the direct phone numbers for the different divisions based upon specific types of complaints. And again, Sean's kind of discussed some of that. There's the link to the report of concern, but again, that will be updated here in the near future, hopefully. I shouldn't say near future because that's a different department and they got plenty on their plate too, so I shouldn't be making timelines for them. But, That's about all I had on that item. I don't know if I'm forgetting anything. I can try to answer any questions you might have.
No questions. Moving along to B, meeting frequency. I've been asked several times, when we went to the quarterly meeting, if we can maybe go to even an every other month instead of quarterly, kind of get a little more frequency on the meetings. And I was told we'd have to make a motion at this meeting to,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Okay, well, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just, when the ordinance was changed, I think part of the discussion was, it doesn't seem like it because Chairman Oberg runs such a great meeting, but getting ready for one of these meetings is a lot of staff time. And I think that was kind of the main driver for, most of the commissions it was felt could meet on a quarterly basis, with the exception of the Planning and Zoning and Utility Commission, because they're handling regulatory functions that is affecting timelines for developers. So that was the recommendation. And, I guess from our point of view, ideally, we would like to stick with the quarterly meetings. I don't know if some of the frustration maybe is a function of, my inability to communicate, or maybe you felt like you've been out of the loop on some things. I think we're open for any kind of inputs. I think Keelan and Eddie have both talked about, maybe we do every other week. We meet with the chair and the vice chair of the commission to give them an update on things we're working on, things that have come up, get some direction on things that, they're interested in having on future agendas. But, I think we're open for any inputs on ways to keep our communication solid, but be able to maintain that quarterly meeting. So I just wanted to throw that out as an option for you. I think, those bi-weekly meetings, I guess that's bi-weekly, or just a newsletter every so often letting you know.
I think that's what a lot of it was the communication or lack of communication. Since then, Eddie and I have had several meetings. Keelan and I have had a couple meetings, and I think you're right. If we can meet every couple weeks, or and I've told the other commissioners too, just email me if you have questions. I know Marcia emailed me a bunch of questions. I brought them up in front of Eddie, got answers. So I think it was the communication, but with myself working with Eddie and Council Jamie and Keelan, I think at this point, I'm not going to make a motion to go every other month, but I'll leave it up to the commission.
Well, I do have a comment about it. When we were doing every month, it did seem like there was a smoother flow between the commissioners, being able to get things out there, to get people to come present to us. Now, it's like when we ask to have a presenter, it may be to the end of the year, if we do it in January, and it's like, we would like to get a few more. Maybe every month was a little bit too much, but to me, in my opinion, every quarter is too far apart. It's kind of like kids, when they go to school and they get out for the summer, then they get back. It takes them a long time to get back into the feel of it, into the groove of it. And I just feel like it leaves the commissions disjointed a lot. I do understand that there's a lot of several other commissions in the city that it works fine for them. But I personally feel that the Clean City Commission needs to meet more frequently. However, whether it's communication between Rod and you, but that's my opinion.
I would say that going to quarterly, you kind of lose that teamwork feel, And not just us up here, but all of us, right? As a team, we're all part of the Clean City Commission, really, because we're working as a team. And when we go every 3 months, you kind of lose that. But if there's a newsletter, like you said, that you guys could put out and keep everybody in the loop, that would go a long way, yeah.
Yeah, and I think some of it's seasonal too, I think when we're where in the spring and fall, we might have a 3-month break between a meeting, but we know that we got 3 or 4 special events that we're gonna be seeing each other at, right? And we're gonna be talking to Mr. Case, Carpenter, whoever about what special event we're going and what we're setting up. But I think the dog days of summer and the cold days of winter, that doesn't happen as much.
See, I think a lot of what the commissioners feel is if they come up with a good idea, they have to wait 3 months to present it or get it on the agenda and present it. And then after that, it's going to be another 3 months before it comes back for approval. But I feel if their thoughts and ideas can come to either myself or send them to Donna, and then Donna can get with me and Eddie and Keelan, we can discuss it, work it out. Maybe by that next meeting, we can have an answer and make a motion and vote on it like we've done tonight. I've worked real hard with Eddie and Keelan to get this agenda put together, and we've accomplished a lot and we got in Sean and we got in our meeting, and it's 10 after. So I think that is working. I hope everybody else feels the same.
Maybe we need a new idea, agenda app.
Well, and that's a good point, and I agree with you. I think this meeting, we were able to, because with the last meeting being, was not having a quorum at the last meeting, so that was actually like a longer break, right? And but I think there's a lot of this that we were able to do some of the
In between.
legwork out front and have things hopefully more prepared for you to be able to give input and give us direction on.
This is our first year of basically doing this quarterly. I still say that we need to get together more often, but I think we should also give it a little bit more time. And because this agenda packet was really done good, there's a lot of stuff we've covered in there. So I'm going to make a motion that we leave it as it is and leave it open with the option of being able, if we find out like next year that it doesn't work, that we address the situation. So my motion is to leave it for quarterly meetings.
And discussion on that motion would be, even though we make a motion and we vote on it, we have to understand it has to go before city council, and they would have to discuss it and approve it.
Well, it wouldn't necessarily have to go to city council unless we were asking them to change the ordinance to allow us to meet more frequently than quarterly.
If we stay quarterly, it means Wayne only has one more meeting in October. And he's done.
We'll have to get some work out of them before then.
September 9th. Okay, I have a motion on the floor to keep the meeting schedule as is with the option to look at it at a future date.
I would add that if we could get just that newsletter going, that would be cool,
That would be a
The
discussion, but right now we have a motion on the floor.
Yeah, I know, but that'd be my caveat, but
So,
I'll second.
second?
Yeah.
Have a second, all in favor?
No, now we can have discussion.
Actually, yeah, Wayne, I'm sorry, it was discussion?
I've been on here a while now, and I've probably been most critical, I guess, of most things because I thought we could do more. I've been somewhat disappointed, but then again, going quarterly to me is detrimental in us doing anything, and too many times I've seen watching the clock, and even on a monthly meeting, the night of the meeting, I don't care if we're here till midnight, if we're getting something done and discussing what needs to be done and taking action. Quarterly, I think is a little bit too long. Personally, I would rather do monthly, but I think bi-monthly would be workable. And quarterly is workable if we do it right. And without us being able to have a committees and anything, then that further restricts, we only have a certain amount of time to plan, discuss, and initiate and go do whatever it is that we decide to do. So I just think we need to take a good look at that and see how it goes and maybe change it at a later date. That's all right. Thank you.
Since this discussion is still open, I'm just gonna spell this or say this. I think we've all become aware of an ordinance that changed actually a year ago, limiting us to our duties and responsibilities. Based on that ordinance is why I feel we can get more accomplished in between the quarterly by me meeting with Eddie or the chairperson meeting with Eddie and Keelan. And if we have to get with Sean during that quarterly. But, I mean, it's sad to say that we were pretty much chopped off at the knees and our responsibilities and duties are not like they used to be. And I think monthly meetings, at this point, based on what the new ordinance says, I think quarterly is sufficient. It's very sad to say, too. There's still a motion on the floor.
There was a second.
And a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Any announcements? Any announcements this evening?
You're looking at me?
Anybody have any announcements?
Well, I want to welcome Marcia. And I'm sad Pam did not join us. But thank you. And I'm proud to be on the Clean City Commission. I love it. And I think we'll get some stuff done. As long as we have good communication, all that, work as a team, everyone, right? So, yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I've got an announcement. On July 10th, the Downtown Streetscape did their groundbreaking event. And I spoke to Sarah Ferry down there. And as some of y'all know, she was on the Clean City Commission at one time. And she works with Kingman Main Street, and now she's on the Parks and Recs Department. And we were just talking about, got on the subject about the graffiti in town. You know, like the railroad fence over here, there's so much graffiti on there. And, you know, when tourists come through town, they see that. And I've found it all over the place in town. And my discussions with her is we would like to, for one, possibly get her to come and speak to us as to what they're trying to do for the cleaning up of this graffiti, and possibly somehow we could work together, our commission and maybe their commission, to come up with something to try to abate the graffiti in town. So that's all I have on that.
Would we have to put that on agenda, or can we ask staff to maybe look into that?
Yeah, I'll follow up with her, and I'm assuming you're talking about the Parks and Rec Commission, through the Park Commission?
Park. Yes, either way, she also works for Kingman Main Street, so if we can't
Yeah.
do it that way, you know, maybe
My-
have,
Sure. My wife's in that store every weekend, so yeah, we'll talk to Sarah.
okay. That'd be great. In some capacity, one way or another.
Anyone have any other announcements? No? Motion to adjourn?
Adjourn.
Do I have,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.